Hi, and thanks for joining us. This is Cole Academy, and we are so excited to provide this webinar to you guys today. Cory Burgess is one of our BCBAs, LBAs, over at Cole Academy at our spring campus. We are so excited to have him present this topic for social skills to y'all today. Cory is a fabulous BCBA, and we are just so lucky to have him a part of our team. He's made such a huge, tremendous effect with the patients that he works in our clinics, and especially the families. He's always great. And so one of the things we always want to kind of focus in on is social skills. And so this is a great topic, and we're really excited to hear your perspective on it, Cory, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Wendy. As Wendy stated, I am Cory Burgess, one of the BCBAs over here at the Spring location at Cole. I've been with Cole for just over a year, actually about a year and a half now. And I'm excited to bring this topic to you guys. Social skills is one of the things that I get really excited about. A little bit about myself. I am a parent of a child on the spectrum. My youngest son actually was diagnosed with autism, and social skills was a huge deficit for him. So that's why I'm so passionate about this topic in general. Hopefully throughout this training, you guys will find some resources that you'll be able to utilize in your own home or with your own children. And as we go throughout it, if you have any questions, feel free, please, to ask your questions, reach out. We're here to answer those questions. We're here to help. So we'll go ahead and jump in and get started. Just a quick overview. We're going to give you an introduction to teaching social skills with individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Also, we're going to learn why social skills are important. We're also going to identify different levels of social skills, and lastly, become familiar with techniques to teach social skills. All right. So what is social behavior? So social behavior is a variety of behaviors that involve interactions between two or more people. Most of the deficits are commonly seen in individuals with autism spectrum disorders or IDD, ASD or IDD. Why is it important to build social skills? It's necessary for making and keeping friends, obviously, and it's also important for success in school, community activities, and on the job. A deficit in social skills is something that is commonly seen in children with autism and other developmental disabilities. Some example of these deficits that includes not engaging in greetings, failing to make eye contact, and not responding in conversations. And I'll say that was one of the things that my son struggled with. The biggest thing was eye contact for him and not appropriately responding with conversations. And those are some of the things that we're going to tackle during this training. All right. So keep in mind that the social skills, they must be taught to everyone, and also that they're not easily generalized. So I know some of us, we may be struggling with our children not being as social as we'd like them to be, and it could be a source of frustration, but understand that it's not something that's gonna be the end of the world, but it is something that we must teach. It's especially true for individuals with developmental disabilities, because social interactions may not be naturally reinforcing, as they may be with more typical peers. And some individuals need extra reinforcement, so they could be tangibles, they could be praise. The biggest thing is to keep in mind, the reason why we do interact in social skills is because we find some part of that interaction reinforcing, being, catching up with an old friend, or talking with even our siblings. That we find that interaction reinforcing, and we have to teach that skills to our individuals, to our children with that have intellectual disabilities and autism. Social skills need to be taught in the home and the classroom, as well as in more natural settings. When teaching social skills, we may attempt to recreate the situation. However, teaching in a natural setting is just as important. So if somebody approaches and says hi, teaching that you return that greeting with the hi or eye contact and a wave. Social skills need to be taught across a variety of settings and with multiple individuals. This helps to ensure that skills continue in the future in new settings and with new people. And that's what we commonly call that generalization. We want to make sure it doesn't just happen in the environment that we teach it in, but we want to make sure that it generalizes to other settings as well. So ways to teach social skills. Some of the things that we use is prompting and reinforcement, social scripts, and video modeling. These are just some of the tools that we use to teach it to our children that have ASD and intellectual developmental disabilities. Some of the things we teach, like basic skills, are greetings, sharing, and requesting. These are 2 levels of social skills. One would want to start teaching these beginning skills to kids who do not display these abilities in their, have these abilities in their repertoire and their collection of skills. Another skill that that we kind of omitted from this slide, just for the sake of time, is making eye contact. And that's like something general that happens when someone's speaking to you. You make eye contact to let them know that, hey, I am attending to you. I'm paying attention to what you're saying. But that's equally important. And typically as a BCBA, it's something that I want to make sure is a foundational skill that I program, just to make sure that my learner has that, and it'll help build in the future. So the greeting and the farewell. So the hi and the bye. Depending on whether you're working on vocalizations or using a PECS or a sign language, you would choose verbal or nonverbal greetings. So if you have a verbal learner teaching the hi and bye, nonverbal learner, you would use the waves, things like that, and using even the device to have those social exchanges. So teaching the verbal greetings, you could use model prompts. Using for nonverbal greetings, you use like most to least prompting. What else we have? We also want to promote generalization. So teaching these skills in different settings with different people and using different greetings. So what that means is I won't always teach hi in the living room, and I won't always teach hi with just mom or just dad, and I won't always say hi. I may say what's up or how's it going, generalizing that repertoire to make sure that they know that all these different things also represent hi or a greeting. All right, so while it may seem best to go through at least the most prompting sequence for verbal greetings, there's another approach that we have that's called a prompt delay that can be even more effective. So for the nonverbal kids, the use of the most to least prompting, which is like the most intrusive prompt, it allows a learner to engage in the correct response the first time the skill is introduced, and then allows errorless learning. So basically, I'm not allowing them to get it incorrect. I'm only giving them opportunity to get the right answer. So if I want to say hi, I'm going to give them the full response to say hi, and not allow them to error. So that most of these prompting will be used until they master the skill, and then you would switch it to least to most prompting, or like a less intrusive prompt. So use most to least until they gain a skill. Once they gain a skill, you would go in reverse and just use least to most prompting. So as it relates to generalizations, you want to set up an environment of capture naturalistic opportunities, and again, use different settings, people, and greetings. The clients that we deal with, for the most part, they don't automatically learn how to use one new skill in a different environment. So it's up to us as behavior technicians, BCBAs, to teach new skills in different ways and settings, so that the kids learn the skill and abilities without the promptings, because the goal is to get them to engage in the skill without the prompt. And then again, you want to use, again, like I said before, the different greetings. So again, not just saying hi, but saying hello, hey, what's up, and things like that. So you want to vary it up, choose a different environment, choose a different way of presenting the greeting. So I'm going to move on to vocal greetings, so the prompting and reinforcement. So for a vocal greeting, well, we use something that's called a prompt delay. You'd immediately prompt and then fade prompt by inserting a time delay. So the way that would work is you would try to increase a prompt delay by only like 1 or 2 seconds each time you present the skill. And then you're going to reinforce the prompted responses in the beginning. So you'll use something like a praise. So if you say, get them to say hi, and you prompt them to return that response, use a praise and a preferred item. Once you fade it, you reinforce independent responses. So use praise for a prompted response, but then use preferred items for independent responses. So that would look like if I said to my learner, hi, and then I had to prompt my learner to say hi first. In the initial one, I would reinforce both parts with the presentation of the social praise and then the tangible. As I'm fading that prompt, I'm gonna prompt them to say hi. If I have to prompt to say hi, I'm only gonna give that prompted response just to praise. But if he gets an independent response, I'll give them that preferred item to help promote, okay, I need to respond independently to get the most preferred item that I have. All right. So what does a prompt delay look like for a reciprocated greeting? So for example, the teacher says hi, you would immediately prompt hi. And then the learner says hi, you give them the reward. So when you insert the prompt delay, again, the teacher would say hi. I would wait 2 seconds to see if they respond independently. If not, then I would prompt the hi. The learner would say hi. I give them the reward. And I'm going to continue to try to fade that prompt delay. So now, same presentation of the hi. I'm going to wait 4 seconds, then prompt the hi. And the learner says hi, and they get the reward or the reinforcer. And it's important to remember that the big reward if the learner says hi before the prompt is given. So in other words, if they say that independently, you give them the biggest reinforcer to let them know that, hey, you did a really good job in saying it independently. Here's that highest preferred item. So for non-vocal greetings, so you would use the most or least prompted procedure. And we choose most or least prompting for nonverbal greetings because it allows for errorless learning, and 2, the greeting behavior will be a motor action. So if someone says hi, my nonverbal greeting would be like a wave. So I'm going to teach them errorlessly to wave when someone says hi or hello to me. We're going to, again, reinforce prompted responses in the beginning. So again, using praise and preferred items. Once you start fading, reinforce independent responses. So you use praise again for the prompted responses, but use preferred items for the independent response. Once you've faded to a less intrusive prompt, if a correct response does not occur with the less intrusive prompt, immediately deliver a more intrusive prompt until there is a correct response. And remember, the goal is to get the most independent response possible. Okay, so another social skill that our learners with developmental disabilities and ASD have is with sharing, or you may commonly hear this term known as turn taking. It's difficult to teach for any child, turn taking. As we may be aware, sharing is a difficult skill to teach any child with or without disabilities. However, sharing is a necessary behavior for success in group activities and playing with others. When beginning to teach sharing, you will want to start with the less preferred item because the child may be more willing to share them. And that's important because you want to make sure that you keep in mind that adults are always paired with reinforcement for children, especially with developmental disabilities, but children aren't. Right, so when you're trying to pair them, you want to use these items. But if I'm always using a highly preferred item for that individual, it kind of looks like to them that I'm this kid. Every time they come around, they take the thing that I like. So it kind of becomes counterproductive. So you want to use like a mid-level item that they'd be more willing to share with. So what you want to do is you want to get everything ready. So you need an adult or peer to ask for the item and use a mildly preferred item. You're going to have the adult or the peer request for the item from the learner, and you'll use most or least prompting and then deliver the reward if the child shares the item. So in teaching, you want to prompt the child to engage with the mildly preferred activity. Then have your second person, so the adult or the peer, request for this item, and then provide most or least prompting for your child to give up their mildly preferred item and provide lots of praise and reinforcement once the item is out of his or her possession. So what that would look like, the child has a mildly preferred item in their hand and he's engaging with it. And then the peer, the adult says, oh, my turn, can I have a turn? And then you would prompt them to and most likely it's the most intrusive, so a full physical, like hand over hand, for them to hand the item to the adult or a peer. And then you're gonna provide a lot of reinforcement for that. And that could be praise and, you know, throw a big party for it, because you wanna let them know that, you know, doing what you just did, it was a great job. And then as the child becomes more successful with the mildly preferred item, you wanna increase to more preferred items to share. And so you're just kind of shaping that behavior until it becomes part of the repertoire. So for the sake of the training, so we have here manding and sharing. So the manding portion of it would be the requesting part, like the my turn or can I have that toy? So immediate vocal prompt, you say, can I see the toy? And then the total physical, the child gives the other child or the adult the item, and then they give the reward. So then you're going to kind of fade that, and then you're going to give the vocal prompt after 2 seconds. So we're going to start to promote more independent responding. So again, the child or the adult says, can I see the toy? And then this time, instead of the total physical, you're going to give a partial physical. The child gives the item away to the other child or an adult, and then you give them the reinforcer with the high praise or tickles, whatever it may be. And then you want to further fade out the prompt. So then it goes from the vocal prompt to 4 seconds. Again, you're going to have the child says, can I see the item or can I see the toy? And instead of a physical prompt, you're going to do a gesture prompt this time. And then the child gives the item and then he gets the reward. During this time, you could work on 2 different skills with the learner. One learner could work on manding, and that's the requesting for the first child. And then the other could work on the sharing or the turn taking. And then the learners could switch. So you can do 2 things at once. And it's a great opportunity for our students as they all have a one-on-one staff when they're working in the clinic. And so you can create that environment of turn taking and manding and sharing in the same time. And then once you get that down, you can move to more advanced skills. So some of the advanced skills that we're gonna talk about today is the conversation and play skills. So with the conversation skills, so the initiation piece is like the hey, the look at me, the play with me. These are the initial requests. And the social initiation is any attempt to engage someone else in an interaction. Social initiations are considered an advanced skill because the cue to engage in an initiation is not as clear as another person asking a direct question. So for example, when another person asks your child, how are you? It's clear that to the child that a response is expected. However, it is less clear when the other person is not engaged with the child. The only cue present is the presence of the other individual. This makes it difficult to teach the child because the child must recognize that he or she should engage in these responses without any direct cues. So typically, you have the initiation, hey, look at me, play with me. Then the question comes, hey, what's your name? How are you? What school do you go to? What's your favorite sport? Where do you work? Things of that nature. There are many ways in which social skills can occur. And these are some of the examples of that your child can ask others to observe him or her, invitation to play, or start a conversation with another person. So now we're kind of seeing that this is more advanced levels of social interaction. It's not the regular kind of my turn situation, but this is engaging in more deep thought conversational skills. And then the other part is the reciprocation. So the answering the question or the laughing, right? And that's teaching when it's appropriate to even do that type of thing. So similarly, engaging in conversation by answering and asking social questions is an advanced skill. Conversation skills are very important in all areas of life. Furthermore, carrying out a conversation is like a ping pong game. The conversation goes back and forth between 2 or more individuals. And you may see that there's a deficit here in continuing the skill, not necessarily even starting a conversation, but engaging in that back and forth. And typically our learners with ASD and intellectual developmental disabilities, you'll see that there's a deficit there. Like I may come up to you and say, hey, what did you do this weekend? And then the learner may walk away from it before they get the answer, or continue the conversation. So that's another thing that I'm always mindful of when teaching social skills, is having my learner engage in that back and forth conversation. And, you know, I may start with like 1 or 2 exchanges, and then gradually increase that level of exchange until they understand that I can have a full conversation and then leave that conversation appropriately. All right, some tools that we can do to teach that are what we call social scripts. And for this, it's important that the client can read, or if you're going to use, it's important that they can read if you're going to use a social script. So things that you could start with is having them read sight words. Then other ones like, you know, understanding when to use social scripts. So you can use these during activities, greetings, conversations. So initiating, asking and answering questions. Sometimes some of the ways that I've used these, I've used conversation trains. And with those, it's like little cards that they go together. So I may start with a question, and then my learner will put together the next part of that conversation, which would be an answer. Like, so what did you do this weekend? Oh, I went to my grandmother's house. And the next piece, what did you do at your grandmother's house? Oh, we played a card game, and kind of continuing that way. And so the learner understands that there's a part where I talk and there's a part where I listen. And when that person's done, I have to go back and forth until the conversation ends. So like I stated, you can also create note cards in addition to like the conversation train. So it's the same thing, but it's kind of going through what an appropriate response would look like and what a conversational phrase would look like. So if they say, how are you? You can teach them to say, I'm fine, how are you? You teach the learner to read the cards. You hold up the cards during the conversation, and then you prompt the learner to read the card during the conversation, and then gradually fade out the script over time. So in essence, you have the learner, or the first child ask the question, you're teaching your child to answer. So again, you say, how are you? You can teach them to say, oh, sorry, go back. Teach them to say, I'm fine. How are you? And then you prompt the child to read the script card using a gesture prompt or instruction to read. And if he or she does not read it, if they don't read independently, then finally you provide lots of praise once your child has engaged in a scripted response. And then again, the goal is to fade out any of the scripts so that they can independently respond to those questions. All right. So one of the things that you can do is you can teach intraverbals, or the reciprocal conversation. So when the verbal stimulus and the verbal response do not match each other, that's what an intraverbal is. So for example, if I say, how are you? And the child responds, I'm 3, her answer would not match with the question asked. So you would need to prompt the correct response. So instead of having them say, you saying, how are you? And they say, I'm 3, you say, how are you? And they teach them to say, I'm fine. So those, the verbal stimulus and the verbal response don't match each other. But it does go into context. And you can teach these questions asking as a game. Okay. So you can teach it as again using play skills. So there's initiations, there's manding, there's responding, and then there's imitation. Imitation is an important prerequisite for these skills, because it helps them to know that, oh, I know when they do something, I need to do something in response. Imitation should always be a focus during programming, as it will allow children to learn new skills faster. And language is an important part of these play skills. So as a BCBA, I'm always mindful of this as well when I'm programming, to make sure that if I'm teaching, let's say, a new skill, especially as it relates to like social skills. If my client can't imitate what I'm doing, then it kind of creates a barrier, because if I'm prompting them to give a verbal response and they don't know to imitate my verbal response, it's going to make it a little bit more difficult. So that's one of the things that I want to make sure that they have before jumping into the social skills and conversational skills there. Okay. So another thing that we want to talk about is a natural pattern of language development. One, we want to make sure that we create a fun learning environment. That's important because when you think about when children are little and they start to develop new skills, typically the things that they learn with are the things that they're most interested in and most motivated by. So you want to make sure that the environment that they're learning in is fun, and it creates that space for them to be more open to engage in those social interactions. Because remember, the purpose of the social interaction is that I find reinforcement in it. You want to allow a choice from an array. And that's huge, because you don't want to kind of dictate what the child is able to do per se. It's more beneficial to the learner and to the more productive to the skill that you're trying to teach when they're able to make the choice of what they're interested in. You also want to model play and use play speech. So kind of narrating what you're doing. Oh, look at the car rolling. Look at the big tractor picking up the bales of hay, of what have you. You kind of narrating what it is that you're doing as you're saying it. So you're promoting the likelihood of interacting and using those conversational skills. You also want to reinforce the child responses, and this is huge. Because as you have the child engage and they're responding, the way you keep them responding is providing a reinforcement, let them know that, hey, this is what I want you to do. You're doing a great job of doing it. And most importantly, you want to take turns. This is how we all learn to talk, and we can use the same system to teach our students when these new social skills. So let's break it down. Starting with step one, creating a fun environment. You want to have lots of fun items available. Like how many of you, and this is huge, how many of you have seen a child who is reluctant to give up their iPad? It's not uncommon to see nowadays, to see kids with an iPad or an iPhone. So you want to avoid favorites, because we want to teach them to share and interact with the other items, and instead of keeping it all to themselves. So when I'm teaching these skills, I don't want to use those items, because it'd be more difficult for them to give it up. So again, choose materials that you can easily manage, and things that your child likes, but not their absolute favorites, right? And then you want to find a location where you can minimize any distractions. So you don't want to be in front of a television, or if they love listening to the radio or music, you want to have any of that going on at the same time, because it's definitely going to distract from the skills that you're trying to teach. Secondly, step two, you want to allow a choice. So you want to present 2 to 3 items and have them pick one. You want to keep the selected item, and then basically restrict the access to it, so they know that I have to go through this person to get access to it. Offer a new choice many times during your session, especially when the child has played with something 3 to 4 times, child seems bored or less responsive to the item, and the child won't imitate to get the item. So it's important that you're being very observant during this process. In the clinic, we call this a preference assessment, really looking and see what the child is interested in and most interested in, to keep them motivated enough to respond. And I'm also gauging how impactful this item is in keeping them motivated throughout the session. And if I need to change it up, I know to change it up. And like I said, the last bullet points let you know the telltale signs that, okay, I may be losing them. Let me try something different. All right, so you want to keep extra materials in a container or bag out of sight between choice opportunities. So basically, stay prepared. So step 3, model play and speech. So use the chosen item to model in action. So that's the play portion, and then add speech. So you'd roll the car, then you pause and you say, roll car fast. Then, or you can use penguin dances. You're gonna pause, dance, penguin dances. Fish swims, pause, the fish is swimming away. Utilizing the toys during the play session and basically, like I said before, narrating what it is that's happening so that you keep the child engaged and you're teaching them new skills at the same time. The biggest thing is make it fun. I can't say this enough. Oftentimes I tell my parents and technicians, it's gonna feel silly a little bit, and if you feel silly when you're doing it, that means you're doing it the right way. Have fun. Oftentimes, if I'm in a session with one of my clients, I probably leave the session, sweating and clothes all in disarray because I'm interacting and I'm having as much fun as they are. That's the key. If you want to keep them interested, make sure that you're having a lot of fun doing so. Step 4, so the contingencies for responding. So you want to make sure that the imitation is at criteria level or something that they've mastered already. So start with success, right? Make sure that they're going to do the right thing and they have the tools to get the correct response. You want to make sure they have the access to the toy. Praise with enthusiasm. So, that's right, it's a green frog. And then continue to model the phrase while he or she is playing. So frog is jumping. Also, if no imitation or they're operating at below the designated level, you want to model up to 3 times, so up to 15 seconds apart. And then if there's still no response, offer a new choice. So the thing is to make sure, the bag that we brought, make sure that we have different options. So if this one isn't working, maybe their interest shifted. As we know, our children with ASD often have multiple things that they're interested in, and it can shift at a split second. So you want to make sure that you're prepared to keep the child engaged. So then you want to prompt taking turns. After a brief opportunity to play, prompt to return prompted the return of the item. So alternatives to my turn, you can ask them, okay, give it to me, or give me the car, things like that. Kind of switch it up instead of just saying the general my turn. You want to do a new trial with different action if still interested. So instead of the frog jumping, now the frog is swimming. If the child is no longer interested, allow a new choice and then start a new trial. So start it over again. You can also, some of the alternatives to the my turn, you can also say like, let me see there, or I want to hold that for a second, or we can play with the iPad again in a minute. All right. So another effective tool in teaching social skills is video modeling. So research has shown that video modeling is just as successful whether you use adults or peers as models. Basically with the video modeling, you're going to show what the learner should do. It can be more effective than real life modeling because it focuses on the important aspects of the interaction, and it's fun to watch videos. Again, it's not uncommon to see our children with iPads or phones, mobile devices in their hands. So they're already accustomed to watching videos, so this makes it more interesting for them. So it may be effective than live modeling for 2 reasons. So first, a video allows for the focus to be solely the targeted behavior rather than other activities that may interfere with your child's attention. So one of the examples could be another child in the classroom or any background noises. Also, it's more fun to watch a video than a real life demonstration of the same behavior because, like I said, most of our children already attend the video. So you're using a modality that they already are familiar with. So some of the prerequisite skills to teaching using video modeling. So is it the child attending to the videos, and then imitation. So both vocal imitation and motor imitation. So how do you create videos for modeling? One, you want to choose a behavior to model. Then you want to also write a script to follow in the video, and then you want to videotape actors using the script. You gather video camera and videotape the actors using the script. So basically, if you have your iPhone or your smartphone, you're ready, and get your actors together so that you can go ahead and go through each step. And then once you've created the video, you want to watch the final video with the learner and point out what it is that you want them to be doing. So the target behavior. Then after reviewing the video, attempt to recreate the situation in practice. So you're going to prompt your child to remember what he or she saw in the video, then provide reinforcement when your child engages in the targeted behavior. And so keep in mind, you're going to need a lot of different material, and it's going to take some effort to create it because you want to make it as fun as possible and interesting as possible. There are some videos you can find on YouTube if you're struggling to get an idea on how to get these items. But again, it can be more fun if the child sees people that they're more familiar with. And make sure that you create a script for the actors to follow, unless you have some really good improv actors. But it's more beneficial to stick to a script so they can get clear and concise to the point, and it's easier to see what it is that the behaviors you want the child to model. It can be used for children with and without verbal abilities. And if the child is able to sit and attend to a video, then the video modeling has the potential to be successful in teaching the social skill. And it does not require any reading material. Okay, so these are the references. Any questions or comments on what we've seen thus far?
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, Cory. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning into this webinar. We'll take question and answers here in a second. For more information, you can check us out at coolhealth.com. Thank you.